There are people who choose the quiet of their home over the noise of the world. Some see this as weakness, but often it is the opposite. It is a sign of someone who has learned to understand themselves. Someone who values what truly matters: inner peace, clarity, and a mind that does not get pulled in every direction. Some people stay home because they value inner peace more than outer noise, and this choice often comes from a deep understanding of themselves. When the world is loud, full of demands, and constantly pushing for attention, the mind becomes tired without even noticing. Many people move through life without questioning this noise. They accept it as normal. But the peace seeker sees something different. They notice how the mind changes when overwhelmed. They feel how stress builds when surrounded by too much movement, too many voices, too many expectations. They recognize that peace is not found outside, it is created inside, and so they choose the environment where their inner world can settle. Home becomes not just a physical place, but a space where the mind can breathe. Choosing to stay home is not avoidance. It is not fear. It is a decision made from awareness. The peace seeker observes how easily the mind gets pulled into the chaos of the world. A small argument, a rude comment, unnecessary gossip, the pressure to impress, the pressure to appear a certain way, all these things disturb the inner state. Over time, a person who values inner clarity learns to protect themselves. They understand that peace is fragile when surrounded by constant interruption. They know that the world outside is full of forces that want to shape their thoughts and reactions. By choosing the quiet of home, they take responsibility for their inner life. They choose to build a space where they can remain true to themselves, rather than losing themselves in noise. There is also a simple truth: the mind becomes what it repeatedly experiences. If it experiences calm, it becomes calm. If it experiences chaos, it becomes chaotic. People who stay home understand this truth. They are careful about what they expose themselves to. They know that every conversation, every place, every atmosphere leaves a mark on the mind. They choose the marks they want. In the quiet of home, they can control the atmosphere. They can shape it to support their mental state. There is no pressure to act, no need to perform, no competition for attention. There is only space to exist as they truly are. The world often celebrates business, crowds, social activity, and constant movement. It calls solitude strange or boring. But the peace seeker sees through this illusion. They know that running from one place to another does not create peace. It only hides the noise inside for a short time. Peace is not found in more activity. Peace is found in understanding the self. It is found in noticing thoughts clearly, without distraction, and this clarity is difficult to find in busy places. Silence becomes a teacher. Stillness becomes a guide. The home becomes a space where lessons of the inner world appear naturally. There is also comfort in simplicity. The peace seeker does not need grand events or loud gatherings to feel alive. They find value in simple things: the calm air of a quiet room, the familiar surroundings, the ability to choose how they spend their time moment by moment. They enjoy the freedom of not being rushed, not being judged, not being pulled in directions that do not match their nature. In simplicity, they find strength. In quiet moments, they find deeper truths about who they are and what they want from life. People who prefer staying home often have learned a difficult but important skill: the ability to be with themselves without discomfort. Many people avoid silence because silence makes them face their thoughts. But the peace seeker has accepted this challenge. They face their thoughts, question them, understand them, and gradually master them. This self-awareness becomes a shield in the world. It helps them stay calm when others panic, stay steady when others are shaken, and stay true when others are lost in confusion. Choosing to stay home becomes a practice, a path toward a clearer mind and a peaceful heart. It is a decision made not from weakness but from strength. It is a way of saying, my inner peace matters more than outer approval. Home becomes a place to train the mind through silence and reflection, and this is something many people overlook. The world outside is filled with loud voices, endless movement, and countless distractions that pull the mind in many directions. But inside the quiet of home, a person can finally hear themselves clearly. They can observe their thoughts without interruption. They can sit with the emotions they usually avoid. In this space, the mind is not forced to react instantly. It is allowed to slow down, process, and understand. This is where real inner training begins. When someone treats their home as a training ground, they are not escaping life. They are preparing for it. They understand that true strength starts from within. It is not measured by how loudly someone speaks or how fast they move. It is measured by how well they can hold their ground when life becomes difficult. Silence teaches this. In silence, the mind learns to settle. It learns to stop chasing every thought. It becomes more focused and less controlled by impulses. This focus becomes a kind of discipline, and discipline grows stronger when practiced in a calm place. Reflection is another powerful part of this training. The quiet of home provides the space to look back on the day, to understand what went wrong, what went right, and what needs to change. Reflection helps a person learn from their mistakes instead of repeating them. It helps them see their habits clearly, the good ones and the harmful ones. When the world is noisy, these lessons get buried. But in the soft stillness of home, they rise to the surface. A person begins to understand why they react the way they do. They begin to notice their strengths and weaknesses. And with this understanding, they can start shaping themselves into someone calmer, wiser, and more grounded. Training the mind at home also involves learning to control one's reactions. The outside world is full of triggers, rude people, stressful situations, unexpected problems. Without inner training, these triggers take control. But when someone practices calmness in their private space, they build a kind of emotional muscle. They learn to pause. They learn to breathe before reacting. They learn that not everything deserves their attention or energy. This practice at home slowly becomes a natural response outside. What once caused anger or stress now feels smaller. What once disturbed the heart now passes quietly. Home is also where a person can practice detaching from unnecessary desires. In a quiet environment, they see more clearly what they truly need and what they only want out of habit. They can examine their cravings, their urges, their impulses. They can question them without pressure. Does this thing add value? Does this desire lead to peace or more chaos? In the calm space of home, the mind becomes honest with itself. This honesty builds strength, because a person who knows their true desires becomes harder to control by the world. Another part of training the mind at home is practicing gratitude. When life is simple and calm, the mind becomes more aware of small blessings: a peaceful moment, a comfortable space, a quiet afternoon. Gratitude softens the mind and makes it less restless. It reduces the need for constant external stimulation. It helps the person stay content with what they have, instead of always wanting more. This contentment becomes a powerful shield against the stress of the outside world. Solitude also teaches endurance. When a person learns to be alone without feeling lonely, they gain a strength many others never experience. They no longer depend on noise or company to feel whole. They become secure in themselves. This security gives them freedom, the freedom to choose where they go, who they spend time with, and how they live. It frees them from the fear of missing out. It frees them from needing approval. Such freedom is built slowly, with quiet moments and thoughtful reflection inside the home. In this way, the home becomes more than just a place to rest. It becomes a quiet school for the mind, where silence is the teacher and reflection is the daily practice. Here, the person shapes their thoughts, builds their inner strength, and trains themselves to face the world with calm and clarity. Solitude helps a person understand their thoughts, emotions, and purpose, and this understanding grows only when the noise of the world fades away, long enough for the inner voice to be heard. Most people move through life without ever truly observing themselves. They react, they rush, they follow distractions, and they rarely pause to look inward. But in solitude, something different happens. The mind begins to reveal itself. Thoughts that were buried under constant noise rise to the surface. Emotions that were ignored finally speak. Purpose, which is often overshadowed by daily obligations, becomes clearer. Solitude becomes a mirror, showing a person who they really are. When someone spends time alone, without distractions, they start to notice the patterns of their thoughts. They see how often their mind jumps from one worry to another. They notice the stories they tell themselves, the fears they repeat, the doubts that appear. In busy environments, these thoughts hide behind noise. But in solitude, the mind has nowhere to hide. This can feel uncomfortable at first, because it forces a person to face things they usually avoid. But facing those thoughts is the first step to mastering them. Over time, solitude helps bring order to what once felt chaotic inside. Emotions also reveal themselves more clearly in solitude. When surrounded by people, it is easy to suppress feelings or distract oneself from them. But alone, a person can feel their emotions without pressure. They can ask themselves why they felt anger in a certain moment, why sadness comes unexpectedly, why fear arises even when nothing is wrong. Solitude gives the space to explore these emotions without judgment. This exploration creates emotional strength. A person who understands their emotions becomes less controlled by them. They are no longer confused by sudden reactions. They see the roots of their feelings and learn how to respond with wisdom instead of impulsiveness. Purpose is another thing that becomes clearer when a person spends time alone. In the outside world, thousands of voices try to influence what someone should want, where they should go, and how they should live. These voices come from society, from peers, from media, from expectations. But none of these voices truly know the inner desires of the individual. Only solitude can reveal that. In the quiet of being alone, a person starts to ask deeper questions. What do I want my life to represent? What values matter to me? What kind of person do I want to become? What is worth my effort, and what is draining my spirit? These questions cannot be answered in a noisy world. They need space, stillness, and honesty. Solitude provides that. Solitude also strengthens self-reliance. When someone learns to sit with their thoughts and emotions without needing external comfort, they become mentally stronger. They no longer depend on others to fill empty moments or calm their worries. They learn to support themselves. This independence does not push people away. It simply means that the person is no longer afraid to face life alone if needed. They become steady, balanced, and grounded. This steadiness becomes a quiet power that others can sense. In solitude, a person also discovers their true interests and passions. Without the influence of others, they can explore what genuinely brings them peace or joy. They can think for themselves, choose for themselves, and live for themselves. This clarity helps them build a life that aligns with their nature, not with external expectations. Solitude becomes the guiding light that reveals what is real and what is merely noise. Another benefit of solitude is the ability to reflect on past experiences with a clear mind. When life moves too fast, lessons are lost. But when alone, a person can revisit situations, understand what happened, and learn from them. This reflection deepens wisdom and prevents repeated mistakes. It also builds a calm inner confidence. A person who learns from solitude becomes someone who enters the world with a quiet strength, knowing themselves better than before. Through all these experiences, solitude becomes not a place of emptiness, but a place of discovery. It is where the mind speaks honestly, the heart shows its truth, and the deeper purpose of life begins to form. Peace seekers choose what they allow into their mind, avoiding unnecessary chaos, and this choice is one of the most powerful tools they have. The world outside is filled with endless demands, distractions, and influences that constantly attempt to shape how a person thinks and feels. From loud conversations to social expectations, from news that triggers fear or anger to people whose presence drains energy, the mind is under constant attack. Most people accept all of this without question, allowing their thoughts to be shaped by whatever surrounds them. But the peace seeker understands that the mind is not a passive place. It is a garden, and like a garden, it must be tended carefully. What is allowed in will grow. What is neglected will decay. What is chosen carefully will flourish. Choosing what enters the mind begins with awareness. The peace seeker observes their environment and the stimuli they encounter. They notice which conversations leave them feeling lighter and which leave them unsettled. They recognize which activities strengthen their focus and which scatter it. This observation is not judgment in the ordinary sense, but a mindful evaluation of what supports their inner life. They understand that just as the body cannot thrive on spoiled food, the mind cannot thrive on chaos. By being selective, they create a mental environment where clarity and calm can grow. This selectivity also applies to emotions. The peace seeker understands that not every emotion needs attention. Some anger, some worry, Some desire only serve to disturb and distract. They learn to observe these emotions without letting them dictate actions. When confronted with gossip, jealousy, or fear-mongering, they decide not to absorb it. They recognize that reacting to every disturbance is a choice, and by making a different choice, they maintain their calm. Over time, this practice strengthens the mind, allowing it to remain unshaken even when external circumstances are turbulent. Information is another area where choice matters. The modern world floods people with news, messages, and opinions. Most of it is irrelevant or harmful, designed to provoke reaction rather than understanding. The peace seeker limits exposure to what is truly useful or necessary. They do not consume content simply because it is available or popular. Instead, they seek what nurtures thought, builds understanding, or aligns with their values. By controlling the flow of information, they prevent mental clutter from taking root, ensuring their mind remains focused and undistracted. Relationships are also approached with care. The peace seeker does not allow every person into their inner circle. They recognize that some relationships are toxic or draining, while others are supportive and uplifting. They choose to invest energy in those who encourage growth, reflection, and peace, while maintaining distance from those who bring conflict, negativity, or chaos. This does not mean avoiding the world entirely, but rather creating boundaries that protect the inner life. They understand that peace is fragile when constantly challenged by external forces, and they guard it diligently. Daily habits and routines reflect the same principle. The peace seeker designs life in a way that supports the mind. They cultivate habits that encourage reflection, calmness, and purpose. They avoid routines that promote distraction, hurry, or unnecessary stress. They understand that the mind follows patterns, and by shaping these patterns intentionally, they shape their experience of life itself. Simple choices, a morning of quiet reflection, an evening without social noise, intentional reading or listening, all reinforce the inner order they seek. In every moment, the peace seeker practices discernment. They ask themselves whether a thought, an action, or a piece of information serves their well-being or disturbs it. They learn to let go of what is unnecessary and to hold close what strengthens them. This practice does not create isolation or ignorance. Instead, it creates a mind that is clear, steady, and resilient, capable of facing the world without being overwhelmed by its chaos. By choosing carefully, they create a sanctuary within themselves, a place of calm that remains unshaken no matter the storms outside. Simplicity at home teaches contentment and control over desires, and this lesson is often overlooked in a world that constantly promotes more, bigger, and faster. Many people live as though happiness depends on acquiring new things, attending endless events, or keeping up with the expectations of others. They fill their homes, schedules, and minds with distractions, believing that this activity will bring satisfaction. Yet, despite all the movement, they often feel empty or restless. The peace seeker sees a different path. They understand that the mind does not need constant stimulation to be alive. In simplicity, the mind becomes clear, and contentment can grow naturally. Simplicity begins with removing unnecessary clutter. A home full of excess creates a home full of mental noise. Objects, tasks, and obligations demand attention, often without providing real value. By keeping only what is needed and what brings genuine benefit, a person creates a calm environment where the mind can rest. This clarity of space mirrors clarity of thought. Just as a messy room can make the mind feel restless, a simple, orderly environment promotes a sense of control and peace. Each object, each corner, becomes intentional rather than random. Control over desires is another powerful lesson learned through simplicity. When a person reduces the external stimuli and distractions in their life, they also begin to notice their internal impulses more clearly. They see the cravings that arise from habit rather than need. They recognize the desires influenced by society, advertising, or comparison with others. In this quiet, they can question each desire. Does it serve me? Does it bring peace, growth, or joy? Or does it only create tension, distraction, or dissatisfaction? Through this process, the peace seeker learns to accept what is truly necessary and let go of what is superfluous. Simplicity also strengthens the ability to find joy in small things: a cup of tea, a quiet morning, a book read without interruption, a clean space, or even a moment of stillness can provide satisfaction that does not depend on external approval. The peace seeker learns to notice and appreciate these small, often overlooked moments. They understand that happiness is not built on grand events or endless possessions, but on the ability to experience fully what is present now. In this way, simplicity becomes a training ground for gratitude and awareness. Another important aspect is the reduction of dependency on external sources of validation. When life is simplified, a person no longer seeks constant excitement, approval, or recognition to feel worthy. They learn that self-contentment is found within, not in the reactions or opinions of others. This independence fosters freedom and confidence. It allows the person to make choices that serve their inner life, rather than chasing what society dictates. By living simply, they create mental space to focus on what truly matters, including reflection, learning, creativity, and personal growth. Simplicity also cultivates patience. Without the constant bombardment of stimulation, the mind learns to wait, observe, and reflect. A simplified life slows the pace of reaction. It encourages deeper thinking, better decision-making, and a calmer approach to challenges. When desires are controlled and clutter is removed, the mind becomes more resilient and less easily disturbed. The peace seeker can handle difficulty with steadiness because they are not constantly at the mercy of unexamined wants or distractions. In this way, simplicity at home is not a form of deprivation, but a form of empowerment. It teaches that less can be more, that calm is stronger than chaos, and that the mind is best nourished when it is free from excess. By practicing simplicity, the peace seeker learns to control desires, rather than be controlled by them, to appreciate the present moment rather than chase the next, and to cultivate contentment that does not depend on the world outside. Over time, this practice strengthens both the mind and the heart, making the person more capable of facing life with calm, clarity, and purpose. Staying home protects energy from people and places that drain it, and this protection is a conscious choice rooted in self-awareness and respect for one's own mind. The world outside is full of constant demands on attention, emotion, and thought. Every interaction, every environment, and every expectation can take a piece of energy, leaving the mind tired and the heart unsettled. Many people expend this energy without realizing it, reacting automatically to everything around them, trying to please, to compete, to fit in. The peace seeker, however, understands that energy is a finite resource, and how it is spent determines the state of the inner life. By choosing to stay home, they create a space where energy is preserved and used intentionally rather than wasted. People who stay home recognize the hidden costs of social and external obligations. Even small interactions can be draining if the mind is forced to adjust constantly, to manage appearances, or to navigate unnecessary conflict. Meetings, parties, casual conversations, and public spaces all carry an energy toll, often unnoticed until exhaustion sets in. The peace seeker evaluates these demands and chooses carefully which ones are truly necessary. By withdrawing from non-essential external pressures, they retain their mental and emotional strength. Staying home becomes a form of self-respect, a declaration that one's well-being is not secondary to the world's constant pull. Energy preservation also includes emotional protection. Not every environment or person supports calmness or growth. Some provoke anxiety, fear, irritation, or comparison. Exposure to these forces repeatedly wears down the mind and clouds judgment. The peace seeker avoids unnecessary exposure. They understand that it is not selfish to protect oneself from constant agitation or negativity. In fact, guarding emotional energy allows a person to respond to life more effectively. By staying home, they can recharge, reflect, and maintain equilibrium, rather than being swept into emotional turbulence that leaves them depleted. Another aspect of staying home is clarity of focus. When energy is drained by external distractions, the mind struggles to concentrate on what matters most. Creativity, decision-making, reflection, and self-improvement all require mental fuel. The peace seeker prioritizes these pursuits by creating an environment where energy is concentrated, not scattered. At home, free from constant interruptions, the mind can think deeply and act purposefully. Tasks are done with care rather than haste, and attention is applied where it has value rather than being dissipated on trivial demands. Staying home also allows for physical energy to be preserved. Travel, crowded places, loud environments, and social obligations take more than mental energy. They exhaust the body as well. Constant activity without rest leads to fatigue, stress, and diminished capacity to enjoy life. By limiting exposure to these draining experiences, the peace seeker maintains a steady physical state that supports mental clarity. They understand that rest and solitude are not passive, but active strategies for maintaining strength. Boundaries are a central part of protecting energy. The peace seeker learns to say no to invitations, requests, and social pressures that do not serve their well-being. These boundaries are not about isolation, they are about careful allocation of energy toward meaningful pursuits. Time spent alone allows reflection on values, goals, and priorities. It allows a person to nurture their own development and relationships that truly matter, rather than being pulled into constant activity that erodes vitality. The home becomes a sanctuary where energy can be restored. Simple routines, quiet moments, and uninterrupted thought replenish the mind and body. A peaceful environment reinforces stability, allowing emotions to settle and decisions to become clear. Over time, the practice of protecting energy becomes instinctive. The peace seeker learns to navigate the world without losing themselves, carrying a calm strength that cannot be easily disturbed. By choosing home, they ensure that energy is spent wisely, reserved for what aligns with purpose and inner peace. Quiet time builds emotional strength that can be carried into the outside world, and this strength is cultivated slowly through repeated practice of calmness and self-reflection. Most people live in a state of constant reaction, responding to external pressures, unexpected events, and the emotions of others. They are pulled in many directions at once, often leaving them exhausted, frustrated, or emotionally unstable. The peace seeker understands that the foundation of emotional strength is not found in reacting faster or louder, but in developing the ability to remain steady regardless of external circumstances. Quiet time at home provides the ideal environment to practice this stability, away from the relentless demands of the outside world. During quiet moments, a person has the chance to observe their own emotional patterns. They notice which situations trigger anger, fear, anxiety, or sadness. They reflect on why these emotions arise and whether they are rooted in reality, habit, or perception. In the world outside, these patterns often go unnoticed because events move too quickly and distractions abound. But in solitude, each emotional response can be studied carefully. This self-awareness is the first step toward emotional mastery. The peace seeker learns to recognize the early signs of agitation or frustration and develops strategies to prevent these emotions from controlling behavior. Quiet time also allows a person to practice emotional regulation. By sitting calmly with feelings rather than immediately reacting, they learn patience and restraint. They discover that emotions, when observed without judgment, gradually lose their power over the mind. Fear becomes less overwhelming when examined thoughtfully. Anger softens when understood. Anxiety diminishes when acknowledged rather than resisted. This practice of observing and understanding emotions in a safe, controlled environment strengthens the mind so that it can face the unpredictable challenges of the outside world with resilience. Another benefit of quiet time is the development of perspective. When isolated from constant social influence and external noise, a person can step back from their immediate reactions and see the larger picture. They learn that not every insult, disappointment, or obstacle deserves a strong emotional response. They understand that many disturbances are temporary, trivial, or outside their control. This perspective reduces impulsive reactions and fosters calm decision-making. Emotional strength is not about eliminating feelings, it is about managing them wisely, and quiet reflection provides the training ground for this skill. Practicing gratitude during quiet time further builds emotional resilience. A person learns to notice the simple blessings that are often overlooked: health, shelter, quiet moments, or the ability to think clearly. Gratitude shifts focus from what is lacking or troubling to what is present and sufficient. This shift trains the mind to maintain a positive emotional baseline, even when external circumstances are challenging. Over time, the mind becomes less dependent on external validation or fleeting pleasures, drawing strength from internal stability instead. Quiet time also allows for rehearsal of responses to future challenges. A person can imagine situations that typically provoke strong emotions and mentally practice responding with calmness and reason. This preparation strengthens the ability to remain composed when real situations arise. By repeatedly engaging in this mental training, the mind becomes conditioned to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. The lessons learned in solitude become tools that can be carried into the outside world, transforming reactions into deliberate, controlled actions. The benefits of quiet time extend to relationships as well. A person who has cultivated emotional strength is less likely to be swept away by the moods, demands, or conflicts of others. They can respond with patience and empathy, instead of irritation or frustration. They are able to support others without sacrificing their own stability, creating healthier and more balanced interactions. Emotional strength gained in solitude becomes a form of protection and empowerment that enhances both personal and social life. Through these practices, quiet time is not a passive retreat, but an active training of the mind and heart. It teaches observation, regulation, perspective, gratitude, and rehearsal, all of which build a resilient inner state. This resilience does not remain confined to the home. It carries outward, allowing the peace seeker to navigate the world with calm, stability, and confidence, facing challenges without being overwhelmed by them. Choosing home is not choosing isolation, it is choosing a deeper life guided by calm, reason, and clarity, and this choice reflects a deliberate understanding of what truly matters in life. Many people believe that fulfillment can only be found in constant activity, social approval, or external achievements. They move from place to place, task to task, conversation to conversation, hoping that each new experience will provide satisfaction or meaning. Yet despite all the movement, they often feel restless, anxious, or disconnected from themselves. The peace seeker sees life differently. They understand that the outer world cannot provide the stability and clarity that the mind requires. True fulfillment arises from cultivating a calm inner state, and home provides the space to do just that. At home, a person can slow down and observe life with clarity. Without the constant intrusion of external pressures, the mind is free to examine its own thoughts, emotions, and patterns. This self-awareness is crucial to living a life guided by reason rather than impulse. When the world is noisy and chaotic, decisions are often made hastily, emotions dictate behavior, and priorities become muddled. By choosing home, the peace seeker allows their mind to sort through experiences, distinguish what is important, and approach life with intentionality. Calm is not mere absence of activity, it is the ability to respond thoughtfully, consistently, and wisely to any circumstance. Clarity is another benefit of choosing home. In the quiet space, a person can reflect on values, goals, and purpose. They can identify which aspects of life align with their principles, and which are distractions. This reflection enables better choices, both in daily routines and in larger life decisions. The clarity gained in solitude is not theoretical, it shapes actions, habits, and relationships. Decisions are guided by reason rather than by fleeting emotions, social pressure, or unexamined habits. In this way, home becomes a laboratory for living intentionally, where one can practice aligning thought, word, and action. Choosing home also fosters calm by reducing unnecessary exposure to disturbances. The world outside constantly demands attention, through social interactions, news, advertising, and obligations. Every disturbance pulls the mind away from its center, leading to exhaustion and agitation. The peace seeker recognizes this and exercises discernment, protecting the mind from influences that do not serve their well-being. By controlling the environment and limiting exposure to chaos, they maintain a steady state of equilibrium. This calm is not fragile. It is built through consistent practice, reflection, and the cultivation of habits that reinforce stability. At home, one can also practice self-discipline. Without constant external guidance or distraction, the mind learns to govern itself. Tasks are completed thoughtfully rather than rushed, routines are chosen deliberately rather than imposed, and desires are evaluated rather than followed blindly. Self-discipline nurtured in this environment strengthens resilience, making it easier to remain composed in challenging situations outside the home. It teaches patience, perseverance, and the ability to act in accordance with values rather than impulse. Furthermore, choosing home allows for emotional balance. The peace seeker can observe and process feelings without external pressure. They can understand anger, sadness, or anxiety and learn to respond with reason rather than reaction. Emotional clarity achieved in solitude provides a stable foundation that supports interactions in the outside world. When challenges arise, the mind does not collapse under pressure. It remains grounded, steady, and capable of thoughtful response. This emotional balance is a form of inner freedom, allowing the individual to act according to what is right rather than what is convenient or expected. In addition, choosing home provides space for reflection on purpose and meaning. Without constant distraction, one can consider life's direction, evaluate progress, and adjust intentions. This practice aligns daily actions with deeper goals, creating a life that is coherent, deliberate, and fulfilling. The peace seeker does not rely on external approval or external excitement for meaning. They cultivate it from within. Home becomes a sanctuary where the mind can align with reason, the heart can find stillness, and the life can unfold according to deliberate choice rather than random circumstance.